I am Tyler Mustard. I'm a full stack developer here at Galvanize, and like many of you, I'm sure, I have been a lifelong fan of video games. For me, it really started with Street Fighter II in the arcades back in the early 90s. That was my jam, and ever since then, I've been a huge fan of fast-paced 2D action games. And I've often dreamt of playing something that played kind of like a side-scrolling shooter, but had a little bit more of an emphasis on player mobility and melee attacks. So that's kind of what my goal was with this project. And I was actually really strongly influenced by a game called Bangayo. Whoops, wrong slide. It's a game on the Sega Dreamcast that's relatively obscure and doesn't really have a lot of imitators that I'm aware of, so I figured I would go ahead and imitate it. So here is the demo of my game. So we start up, and immediately we've got equipment. The first one being a ring that grants you invincibility, and then we also have a sword and a bomb item. You can see the bomb kind of being used to great effect here. And my philosophy when making this game was to empower the player with as much mobility and utility as possible, and then to kind of increase the difficulty in proportion with the amount of utility and mobility that the player character has, that results in a game that's just completely overflowing with speed and intensity. And you see that increased difficulty here that I was talking about. And I've kind of put the player in a situation that seems nearly impossible because the screen is filled with projectiles from the enemy. But with that invincible dash and with the 4-way sword slashes, you can kind of see that he's making headway and, well, he's dead. But regardless, if you look on the bottom right, you see that he scored 3 gens, and he was actually able to post that score to my database, which is using a Node backend. And then if we load up the database, you can see the name that I just entered, ABC, with 3 gens. So I didn't do that well. I'm at the bottom of the top score list, but that's okay. So that is the way in which we're kind of interacting with this online leaderboard in the game. So the technologies used for this project are GameMaker Studio, Node.js, Kinect, and then Heroku for deployment of the backend. And some of the challenges I faced were getting the collision and physics to work in tandem with each other. That was probably the biggest issue that I had throughout developing it. As soon as I would change one tiny thing, everything would break. So that was a little hard to figure out. Getting the balance right, because like I said, I wanted to make a difficult game, but also wanted the player to feel like they could do pretty much anything. So that was hard. And then getting the database integration was definitely a huge challenge. Future goals would be local multiplayer, so we have some 2-player action going. Environmental puzzles to kind of break up the action a little bit and make it a little bit more varied and less monotonous. And then just more of everything, more abilities, more items, weapons, enemies, stages, all that stuff, bosses. And then also original art, because all the art that you saw in there was ripped from other games, as well as from opengameart.org. So thank you to the people there. And if you'd like to contact me, these are my links for contact info. I'm Tyler Mustard. This is Magus Adventure. Thank you so much for listening.